We choose the thoughts we allow ourselves to think, the passions we allow ourselves to feel, and the actions we allow ourselves to perform. Each choice is made in the context of whatever value system we've selected to govern our lives. In selecting that value system, we are, in a very real way, making the most important choice we will ever make. In summary, you may well find that the challenge of creating a family mission statement will drive you to do the inner work you need to do to have your own vision and values clear. You may also discover that this challenge will drive you back into your relationship with your spouse, this very fundamental relationship out of which everything else in the family grows. If you don't have shared vision and values there, it's going to be very difficult to create them in the family. So you may also want to spend time creating a marriage mission statement to make certain that you and your spouse are headed down the same path. Watchouts in mind. 1. Don't announce it. Involving everyone on the level we're talking about takes time and patience. You may be tempted to just write a mission statement yourself or create it with your spouse and then announce it to your children, but don't do it. If the members of your family don't feel that the mission statement represents them, they won't support it. As one mother said, everyone has to feel a sense of ownership in the mission statement. Otherwise, it's like when you ask people, when was the last time you washed a rental car? If it's not yours, you don't take care of it the same. So take the time to make sure that everyone is involved and committed. Except for little children, remember, no involvement, no commitment. With little children, identification, emotional bonding, is even more powerful than involvement. 2. Don't rush it. If you try to rush your family through this, they'll let you have your way just to get it done so that they can get on to other things. But the finished statement will not reflect their feelings, and they'll have little allegiance to it. Again, the process is as important as the product. It requires deep and genuine involvement, listening to one another, and working together to make sure the mission statement represents the thoughts and feelings of everyone involved. 3. Don't ignore it. Remember, begin with the end in mind is a habit of effective families, not an event. The actual writing of a mission statement is only the beginning. The richest fruits come as you translate that mission into the very fabric of your family life, into the moments of your day-to-day living. And to do that, you must keep it constantly before you, reflect upon it, and use it as the literal constitution of your family life. You might want to print it up and give everyone a copy. Keep a copy in your purse or wallet, or frame it and put it on the wall. One family made a plaque and hung it by their doorbell. It read, "Inside this house are the sounds of love and the spirit of service." With all the frequent comings and goings, this acted as a constant reminder to everyone of the kind of family they were striving to be. You'll also want to remember the Chinese bamboo tree. One father shared this fascinating account of the difference a mission statement and the 7 Habits framework made as he and his wife worked with a difficult daughter for many years. About 5 years ago, our bright, musically talented daughter had just gone into the 7th grade. She began hanging around with kids who had failed a few grades and were into drugs. At that time, we tried to get her to buy into a family mission statement with no effect. In an effort to help her, we took her out of public school and put her into Catholic school through the 8th grade. We didn't allow her to hang out with kids from the old school. We even went as far as moving to another part of town. But despite heavy day-to-day teacher and parent involvement and holding her accountable for her behavior, her grades continued to deteriorate. She began to call her old friends and occasionally meet with them. She became very disrespectful toward her mother. We tried all forms of giving and taking away privileges for behavior without any effect. We finally sent her to Outward Bound with a group of kids sponsored by a local church. During this time, my wife and I wrote a marriage mission statement. We spent about an hour a day listening to each other, and we got serious about our personal mission statements. We kept coming back to the principle of choice and to the core values we would live by. Come what may with our daughter. When she refused to go to private school for high school, we moved from Texas to New Jersey, where we had relatives. We moved from a suburb community to a 5-acre country environment in a wealthy part of the state with excellent public schools and very few drug problems. She began the 9th grade there and almost immediately had problems at school. Under pressure from others that we weren't doing enough, we tried various forms of tough love without any positive effect. Our daughter began to cut herself and threatened to run away and commit suicide. The school recommended that she join a group with the school counselor, where she immediately found friends who were drinking, using pot, and being sexually promiscuous. She became destructive at times, and my wife was afraid for her own safety. We put her in therapy, but with no positive effect. During the 10th grade, she began to fail everything. She refused further therapy and was kicked out of the counseling group at school. She began staying away from home with boyfriends. My wife and I felt we had exhausted all reasonable ideas. We were not willing to let her run away or to call the police on her, but we felt we had tried everything else. At that point, we decided to put our faith in principles instead of in all the popular advice we were receiving. We continued to have our daily talks, and even though I traveled a lot, we never missed a day. We began to separate our problems from those of our daughter and to believe that we were making more of a difference than we could see. We focused on working from the inside out. We got very serious about being trustworthy. No matter what our daughter's behavior was, we never used it as an excuse to break our word. We focused on building trust in every interaction with her. We demonstrated our unconditional love for her while expressing explicitly what behavior was against our values and what the consequences would be. We were scrupulous about keeping all consequences in our circle of influence. If she ran away, we would not try to find her, but we would go and get her when she called. We would express our love and concern and listen to understand, but we would not disrupt our plans or lives or hide what she was doing from our relatives. We would not trust her unconditionally. We explained to her that she, like us, had to earn trust. We treated her as a proactive person. We affirmed her talents and allowed her levels of initiative to be equal to her trustworthiness in that area, and stay the course. Habit 3. Put first things first. Okay, now, I know what you're going to hear from people is, we don't have the time. But if you don't have the time for one night, or at least 1 hour during the week where everybody can come together as a family, then the family is not the priority. In this chapter, we're going to take a look at 2 organizing structures that will help you prioritize your family in today's turbulent world and turn your mission statement into your family's constitution. One of these structures is a weekly family time. And as television talk show host Oprah Winfrey told her audience when she talked with me about this book on her show, if you don't have the time for one night or at least 1 hour during the week where everybody can come together as a family, then the family is not the priority. The second structure is one-on-one bonding times with each member of your family. I suggest that these 2 structures create a powerful way to prioritize your family and keep first things first in your life. One of the worst feelings in the world is when you realize that the first things in your life, including your family, are getting pushed into second or third place, or even further down the list. And it becomes even worse when you realize what's happening as a result. I vividly remember the painful feeling I had one night as I went to bed in a hotel in Chicago. While I had been presenting that day, my 14-year-old daughter Colleen had had her final dress rehearsal for a play she was in, West Side Story. She had not been selected to play the lead, but was the understudy, and I knew that for most of the performances, possibly all, she would not play the leading role. But tonight was her night. Tonight she was going to be the star. I had called her to wish her well, but the feeling in my heart was one of deep regret. I really wanted to be there with Colleen, and although this is not always the case, This time I could have arranged my schedule to be there. But somehow Colleen's play had gotten lost in the press of work and other demands, and I simply didn't have it on my calendar. As a result, here I was, alone, some 1,300 miles away, while my daughter sang and acted her heart out to an audience that didn't include her dad. I learned two things that night. One was that it doesn't matter whether your child is in the leading role or in the chorus, is starting quarterback or third string. What matters is that you're there for that child. And I was able to be there for several of the actual performances where Colleen was in the chorus. I affirmed her, I praised her, and I know she was glad I had come. But the second thing I learned is that if you really want to prioritize your family, you simply have to plan ahead and be strong. It's not enough to say your family is important. If family is really going to be top priority, you have to hunker down, suck it up, and make it happen. The other night after the 10 o'clock news, there was an advertisement on television that I have often seen. It shows a little girl approaching her father's desk. He's hassled, has papers scattered all over, and is diligently writing in his planner. She stands by him, unnoticed, until she finally says, "Daddy, what are you doing?" Without even looking up, he replies, "Oh, never mind, honey. I'm just doing some planning and organizing. These pages have the names of all the people I need to visit and talk with, and all the important things I have to do." The little girl hesitates and then asks, "Am I in that book, Daddy?" As Goethe said, things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. There is no way we can be successful in our families if we don't prioritize family in our lives. And this is what Habit 3 is about. In a sense, Habit 2 tells us what first things are. Habit 3, then, has to do with our discipline and commitment to live by those things. Habit 3 is the test of the depth of our commitment to first things and our integrity, whether or not our lives are truly integrated around principles. Most people clearly feel that family is top priority. Most would even put family above their own health if it came to it. They would put family ahead of their own life. They would even die for their family. But when you ask them to really look at their lifestyle and where they give their time and their primary attention and focus, you almost always find that family gets subordinated to other values, work, friends, private hobbies. In our surveys of over 250,000 people, Habit 3 is, of all the habits, the one where people consistently give themselves the lowest marks. Most people feel there's a real gap between what really matters most to them, including family, and the way they live their daily lives. Why is this happening? What is the reason for the gap? After one of my presentations, I was visiting with a gentleman who said, "Stephen, I really don't know if I'm happy with what I've done in my life. I don't know if the price I've paid to get where I am has been worth it. I'm in line now for the presidency of my company, and I'm not sure I even want it. I'm in my late 50s and could easily be the president for several years, but it would consume me. I know what it takes." What I missed most was the childhood of my kids. I just wasn't there for them. And even when I was there, I wasn't really there. My mind and my heart were focused on other things. I tried to give quality time because I knew I didn't have quantity, but often it was disorienting and confusing. I even tried to buy my kids off by giving them things and providing exciting experiences, but the real bonding never took place. And my kids feel the enormous loss themselves. It's just as you talk about, Stephen. I have climbed the ladder of success, and as I'm getting near the top rung, I realize that the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. I just don't have this feeling in our family, this beautiful family culture you've been talking about. But I feel as if that's where the riches are. It's not in money. It's not in positions. It's in this family relationship. Then he began to open his briefcase. "Let me show you something," he said, as he pulled out a large piece of paper. "This is what excites me," he exclaimed, spreading it out between us. It was a blueprint of a home he was building. He called it his 3-generation home. It was designed to be a place where children and grandchildren could come and have fun and enjoy interacting with their cousins and other relatives. He was building it in Savannah, Georgia, right on the beach. As he went over the plans with me, he said, "What excites me most about this is the way it excites my kids. They also feel as though they lost their childhood with me. They miss that feeling, and they want and need it. In this three-generation home, we have a common project to work on together. And as we work on this project, we think about their children, my grandchildren. In a sense, I am reaching my children through their children, and they love it. My children want my involvement with their children." As he rolled the paper up and put it back into his briefcase, he said, "This is so important to me, Stephen. If accepting this position means that we have to move or that I won't have the time to really invest in my children and grandchildren, I've decided I'm not going to take it." Notice how, for many years, family was not this man's most important priority, and he and his family lost many years of precious family experience because of it. But at this time in his life, he had come to realize the importance of the family. In fact, family had become so important to him that it eclipsed even the presidency of a major international firm, the last rung on the ladder of success. Clearly, putting family first doesn't necessarily mean that you have to buy a new home or give up your job, but it does mean that you walk your talk, that your life really reflects and nurtures the supreme value of family. In the midst of pressures, particularly regarding work and career, many people are blind to the real priority of family. But think about it. Your professional role is temporary. When you retire from being a salesman, banker, or designer, you will be replaced. The company will go on, and your life will change significantly as you move out of that culture and lose the immediate affirmation of your work and your talent. But your role in the family will never end. You will never be replaced. Your influence and the need for your influence never ends. Even after you are gone, your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will still look to you as their parent or grandparent. Family is one of the few permanent roles in life, perhaps the only truly permanent role. So if you're living your life around a temporary role and allowing your treasure chest to remain barren in terms of your only real permanent role, then you're letting yourself be seduced by the culture and robbed of the true richness of your life, the deep and lasting satisfaction that only comes through family relationships. In the end, life teaches us what is important, and that is family. Often for people on their deathbed, things not done in the family are a source of greatest regret. And hospice volunteers report that in many cases, unresolved issues, particularly with family members, seem to keep people holding on, clinging to life until there is a resolution, an acknowledging, an apologizing, a forgiving that brings peace and release. So why don't we get the message of the priority of family when we're first attracted to someone, when our marriage is new, when our children are small, and why don't we remember it when the inevitable challenges come? For many of us, life is well described by Rabindranath Tagore when he said, "The song that I came to sing remains unsung. I have spent my days in stringing and unstringing my instrument." We're busy, incredibly busy. We're going through the motions, but we never seem to reach the level of life where the music happens. The first reason we don't put family first goes back to habit 2. We're not really connected to our deepest priorities. Remember the story about the businessmen and women and their spouses in habit 2 who had difficulty creating their family mission statements? Remember how they were unable to achieve the victory they wanted in their families until they really deeply prioritized family in their own hearts and minds, inside out? Many people have the feeling that family should be first. They may really want to put family first. But until that deep priority connection is there, and a commitment is made to it that is stronger than all the other forces that play on our everyday lives, we will not have what it takes to prioritize the family. Instead, we will be driven or enticed or derailed by other things. In April 1997, U.S. News & World Report published a hard-hitting article entitled "Lies Parents Tell Themselves About Why They Work" that really challenged parents to do some serious soul-searching and conscience work in this area. Authors Shannon Brownlee and Matthew Miller claim that few topics are as important and involve as much self-deception and dishonesty as finding the proper balance between child rearing and work. They list 5 lies parents tell themselves to rationalize, create rational lies, around their work preference decisions. In summary, their findings were as follows. Lie number 1, we need the extra money. But research shows that better-off Americans are nearly as likely to say they work for basic necessities as those who live near the poverty line. Lie number 2, daycare is perfectly good. The most recent comprehensive study conducted by researchers at 4 universities found that while 15% of daycare facilities were excellent, 70% were barely adequate, and 15% were abysmal. Children in that vast middle category were physically safe, but received scant or inconsistent emotional support and little intellectual stimulation. Line number 3, inflexible companies are the key problem. The truth is that family-friendly policies now in place are usually ignored. Many people want to spend more time at the office. Home life has become like an efficiently run but joyless workplace, while the actual workplace, with its new emphasis on empowerment and teamwork, is more like a family. Line number 5. Dads would gladly stay home if their wives earned more money. In reality, few men ever seriously contemplate such a thing. Men and women define masculinity not in terms of athletic or sexual prowess, but by the ability to be a good provider for their families. It's easy to get addicted to the stimulation of the work environment and a certain standard of living, and to make all other lifestyle decisions based on the assumption that both parents have to work full-time. As a result, parents are held hostage by these lies, violating their conscience, but feeling that they really have no choice. The place to start is not with the assumption that work is non-negotiable, it's with the assumption that family is non-negotiable. That one shift of mindset opens the door to all kinds of creative possibilities. In her best-selling book, The Shelter of Each Other, psychologist Mary Pfeiffer shares the story of a couple who were caught up in a hectic lifestyle. Both husband and wife worked long hours, trying to make ends meet. They felt they had no time for personal interests, for each other, or for their 3-year-old twins. They anguished over the fact that it was daycare providers who had seen their boys' first steps and heard their first words, and that they were now reporting problems in behavior. This couple felt they had essentially fallen out of love, and the wife also felt torn apart by her unfulfilled desire to help her mother who was ill with cancer. They seemed trapped in what appeared to them to be an impossible situation. But through counseling, they were able to make some changes that created a dramatic difference in their lives. They began by setting aside Sunday nights to spend with their family and paying attention to each other, giving back rubs, and expressing words of affection. The husband told his employers he would no longer be able to work on Saturdays. The wife eventually quit her job and stayed home with the boys. She asked her mother to move in with them, pooling their financial resources and providing a built-in storyteller for the boys. They cut back in many areas. The husband carpooled to work. They quit buying things except for essentials. They stopped eating out. As Mary Pfeiffer said, the family had made some hard choices. They had realized that they could have more time or more money, but not both. They had chosen time. And that choice made a profound difference in the quality of their personal and family lives. They were happier, more fulfilled, less stressful, and more in love. Of course, this may not be the solution for every family that's feeling hassled and out of sync, but the point is that there are options, there are choices. You from full to part-time work, cutting commuting time by having fewer, longer work days or working closer to home, participating in job sharing, or creating a virtual office in your home. The bottom line is that there is no need to be held hostage by these lies if family is really your top priority. And making the family priority will push you into creative exploration of possible alternatives. There's no question that more money can mean a better lifestyle, not only for yourself, but for your kids. They may be able to go to a finer school, have educational computer software, and even better health care. And recent studies also confirm that a child whose father or mother stays home and resents it is worse off than if the parents go to work. But there's also no question that the role of parents is a unique one, a sacred stewardship in life. It has to do with nurturing the potential of a special human being entrusted to their care. Is there really anything on any list of values that would outweigh the importance of fulfilling that stewardship well, socially, mentally, and spiritually, as well as economically? There is no substitute for the special relationship between a parent and a child. There are times when we would like to believe there is. When we choose to put a child in daycare, for example, we want to believe it's good, and so we do. If someone seems to have a positive attitude and a caring disposition, we easily believe they have both the character and the competence to help raise our child. But that which we desire most earnestly, we believe most easily. This is all part of the rationalization process. The reality is that most daycare is inadequate. To paraphrase child development expert Yuri Bronfenbrenner, you can't pay someone to do for a child what a parent will do for free. So parents need to make their commitment to their children, to their family, before they make their commitment to work. And if they do need daycare assistance, they need to shop for that care far more carefully than they ever would for a house or a car. They need to examine the track record of the person being considered to ensure that both character and competence are present, and the person can pass the smell test, the sense of intuition and inspiration that parents can get regarding caregiving for their children. They need to build a relationship with the caregiver so that correct expectations and accountability are established. Good faith is absolutely insufficient. Good intentions will never replace bad judgment. Parents need to give trust, but they also need to verify competence. Many people are trustworthy in terms of character, but they are simply not competent. They lack knowledge and skill, and often are absolutely unaware of their incompetence. Others may be very competent, but lack the character, the maturity and integrity, sincere caring, and the ability to be both kind and courageous. And even with good care, the question each parent has to ask is, how often is such proxy caregiving right in my situation? Sandra and I have some friends who have said that when their children were little, they felt they had all kinds of options and freedoms to do whatever they wanted. Their children were subject to them and dependent on them, and essentially they could have surrogate parenting in the form of daycare and sitters whenever they wanted. So both parents became very involved in other things. But now, as their children are getting older, they are beginning to reap the whirlwind. They have no relationship. The children are getting into destructive lifestyles, and the parents have become greatly alarmed. If we had it to do over, they've said, we would put a higher priority on our family, on these children, particularly when they were little. We would have made a greater investment. As John Greenleaf Whittier wrote, "For of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these, 'It might have been.'" On the other hand, we have another friend who said, "I've learned that for these years when I am raising these children, my other interests, professional interests, development interests, social interests, are to become secondary. My most important focus is to be there for my children, to invest myself in them at this critical stage." She went on to say that this is difficult for her because she has so many interests and capabilities, but she's committed to it because she knows how vitally important it is. What is the difference in these two situations? Priority and commitment, a clear sense of vision, and the commitment to live with integrity to it. So if we're not really prioritizing the family in daily life, the first place to look for answers is back in habit 2. Is the mission statement really deep enough? Assuming that we do have our habit 2 work done, The next place we need to look is at the turbulent environment we're trying to navigate through. We took a brief look at a few major trends in Chapter 1, but now let's take a closer look at the society we're living in. Let's examine a few of the changes over the past 40 to 50 years in 4 dimensions: culture, laws, economy, and technology, and see how these changes impact you and your family. These facts I'm going to share comes from surveys done in the United States, but they reflect growing trends worldwide. In the 1950s in the United States, the average child watched little or no TV, and what he saw on television was stable, 2-parent families who generally interacted with respect. Today, the average child watches 7 hours of television per day. By the end of grade school, he's seen over 8,000 murders and 100,000 acts of violence. During this time, he spent an average of 5 minutes with his dad and 20 minutes with his mother, and most of that time was spent either eating or watching TV. Just think about it: 7 hours of TV a day and 5 minutes with dad. Unbelievable! He also has increasing access to videos and music that portray pornography, illicit sex, and violence. As we noted in Chapter 1, he goes to schools where the major concerns have shifted from chewing gum and running in the halls to drug abuse, teen pregnancy, suicide, rape, and assault. In addition to these influences, many homes have actually begun to take on the tone of the business world. In her groundbreaking analysis, The Time Bind, sociologist Arlie Hochschild points out how, for many people, home and work have changed places. Home has become a frantic exercise in beat the clock, with family members having 15 minutes to eat before rushing off to a soccer game and trying to bond in the half hour before bed so they don't waste time. At work, on the other hand, you can socialize and relax on a break. By comparison, work seems like a refuge, a haven of grown-up sociability, competence, and relative freedom. And as a result, some people even allow their workday to lengthen because they enjoy work more than home. Hochschild writes, "In this new model of family and work life, a tired parent flees a world of unresolved quarrels and unwashed laundry for the reliable orderliness, harmony, and managed cheer of work." And it's not just the changing tone of the home environment. There's enormous affirmation on the job. There are many extrinsic rewards, including recognition, compensation, and promotion that feed our sense of self-worth, exhilarate us, and exert a powerful pull away from family and home. They create a seductive vision of a different destination, an idyllic, warm climate utopia that combines the satisfaction of hard work with the apparent justification in the busyness of meeting the unbelievable schedules and demands for neglecting what really matters most. The rewards of home and family, on the other hand, are almost all intrinsic.